Back in the early to mid-'80s, I worked for the Episcopal Church's Appalachian ministry. I was stationed in Blacksburg, Virginia, but worked all over the mountains from northern Georgia to southern New York. And since I did a lot of work with the National Episcopal Church, I would go to their headquarters, which was in New York. But New York is an incredibly expensive place to stay. So I never wanted to get a hotel room there. Instead, I would stay at General Theological Seminary, which is the Episcopal Seminary, down at 9th and 21st in the Chelsea neighborhood. The rates to sleep there were really cheap, and I could always get the subway up to the Upper East Side to go to the National Church headquarters at 815 2nd Avenue. If the weather was good, I would take the 45 minutes to an hour that it would take to walk there from Chelsea all the way up to the Upper East Side. It was kind of fun walking down the avenues. Because when you walk down the avenues in New York, especially from Chelsea to Times Square and places like that, they keep repeating themselves. I mean, here's a bodega grocery store. Here's a restaurant. Here's a jewelry shop. Here's a bank. Here's another restaurant. And the stores just keep repeating themselves. Here's a Woolworths. Here's a record store, back in the days when they sold records. You just kept seeing it repeat over and over and over again as you went up the avenues. But at one point, I remember walking by a shop that didn't seem to fit in. It simply said, Saul's Fix-It Shop. And it had Saul's motto underneath it. Nothing broken beyond repair. Nothing broken beyond repair. Made me think of the lawnmower I had. Got this lawnmower that just doesn't seem to start very well. It's got a choke to it, and I never know where to put the choke. It always says that you need to clean out the carburetor every couple of months, and I do that. But sometimes it takes me 10, 12 pulls to get this darn thing started. I never seem to get it right. And I've tried to fix it and tried to fine-tune it, and I kept thinking, I wonder if Saul could fix my lawnmower. And I kept walking. But I thought some more. I thought about my younger brother, whose marriage was falling apart. I thought, can you fix that, Saul? They're having a really rough time. Can I come into your shop and tell you all about my brother and his wife and their crumbling relationship, and will you fix that? Then I thought about all the problems I'm dealing with in the Appalachian Mountains, all the poverty, lost jobs. Even then, coal mining was on the wane. People who lost their property to broad-form deeds, all kinds of problems in the mountains. I thought, Saul, can you come down to the mountains and fix those? And I thought of another friend of mine who had cancer. And they were worried that it might be terminal. She was struggling with it. She was fighting it. But they weren't sure they were going to fix that. I thought, Saul, can you fix my friend who has cancer? And I didn't have the time to do this. But I found myself stopped there, stopped on the avenue. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to go give Saul a piece of my mind. And so I turned around, went back down the avenue, all the way to Saul's shop. I was going to let him know that there are some things that get broken that cannot be repaired. What's with this motto? And so I opened the door. And as soon as I opened the door, a bell rings. He's got one of those bells. One of those bells that rings when you push the door open. Who has that, even in the 80s? And it was kind of disarming. Took a little of the anger out of me. He said, I'll be with you in just a minute. He was working on what looked like a radio. I said, take your time. Still wanted to ask him how I was going to fix all these things. Well, finally, he came to the counter. Yeah, there was a counter there, just like you'd think would be at a fix-it shop where he could drop whatever you were going to give to him to have him fix. It was right there. And I said, I got a problem with a lawnmower. He says, yeah, you from around here? I said, no, no, I'm actually from Virginia. Well, how are you going to get the lawnmower up here? I said, well, it isn't so much that. I was just wanting to talk to you about your motto, nothing broken beyond repair. And I think this lawnmower's about had it. Well, what are you doing with it? And I told him about changing the carburetor and cleaning it out, and told him about working on the choke. And he said, have you changed the spark plug? I said, no, haven't done that yet. Well, you might want to do that. And he went back to something else he was working on behind the counter, and he says, just take some time with it. Read the manual. That's the problem these days. Nobody takes time with anything. If they took a little time with things, they could actually fix them. But nobody wants to invest in it. Anyway, try those things with your lawnmower. It'll be all right. I wanted to ask him about my brother. I wanted to ask him about the mountains. I wanted to ask him about my friend with cancer. But I didn't have the courage, so I just left. But as I walked up the avenue, I realized that maybe it was right. Maybe nothing is broken beyond repair if we're willing to spend time with it. Maybe if I could spend more time with my brother and his wife, and maybe if they could spend more time with each other, maybe those wounds would heal. Maybe if we put more time and more energy and more efficiency into what we're trying to do in the mountains to make it better, maybe things could be repaired. Maybe in time, my friend's cancer can be cured. And if not, then with God, she's got all the time in the world in the end. And maybe that can take her to being repaired. Maybe, just maybe, if we take time, then maybe nothing is broken beyond repair.